Welcome back to another UNC football podcast here on TarHeelIllustrated.com. And if you're checking us out on our YouTube channel, Tar Heel Illustrated, I am THI publisher Andrew Jones, and joining me, as she almost always does, when we talk about UNC football recruiting, and now the transfer portal edition, because the transfer portal is essentially recruiting now. So Deana has her ears to the ground, and she has been digging up information, what little information there is out there with respect to UNC football and the transfer portal. There is one big story, Deana, and that's Tennessee running back Ty Chandler, a graduate from Tennessee. He's a grad transfer, announced a couple days ago that he will be a Tar Heel. And I think that this is a great fit for UNC. Clearly, the running back room was deficient. Not only did it need another body, a capable body, but it needed an older guy, a guy who's been through the ropes. And Chandler has over 2,000 yards rushing at Tennessee, scored 17 touchdowns. He's a kickoff return guy, averaged 22.3 yards a kickoff return for the Volunteers, returned a touchdown a couple of years ago, kickoff for a touchdown. And also in 2018, he was the offensive most outstanding player for the Volunteers. So here's a guy who's been around the block a few times. He understands how to play college football. He's got a little giddy up. He knows how to get into the end zone. And that's exactly what this program needs after losing Michael Carter and Javonte Williams. What are your thoughts about Carolina picking up Ty Chandler?
Huge pickup because, just like you said, a veteran, 2,000 yards. He can do a little bit of everything. He's I'm not going to really well, you said he was similar to Michael Carter, so he's like a Michael Carter in that orange. So he's coming to UNC. The Tennessee folks thought it was, a great addition for the Tar Heels. His relationship with Coach Robert Gillespie, the running back coach at Carolina, who he was recruited by when Coach Gillespie was at Tennessee. So there were some connections there. And I'm sure when he decided that he was wanting to look for another place, that probably Gillespie was the first call, because it was hard not to see what North Carolina done in the offensive backfield with Michael Carter and Javonte. And another big plus, so who wouldn't want to play behind a line that's all of them are coming back and produce 2 1,000-yard rusher, and then you got a potential Heisman candidate in Sam Howell leading that offense.
But when you think about the portal and kids transferring, Mac has told us many times before, he said, kids transfer for a reason. A lot of the time it's because they're just not playing enough. And because of that, they're not happy, so they want to find another place. There are also times where they transfer trying to upgrade. A kid may go from a non-Power 5 to a Power 5. He's played well, maybe wants to increase his draft stock or see if he has stock. And then there are situations where there's a personal need that a player has, and there's a program that might be a lateral jump or even a jump up that actually has a need that player can fit. And I think when you look at Ty Chandler, he's a good football player. You don't run for 2,000 yards in the SEC if you're not a good football player. He's averaging, around 5 yards a carry or something like that, close to 5 yards a carry at Tennessee on an offense that struggled a lot and had myriad problems at quarterback the last couple of years. But also, Carolina had an absolute need. Max said, we're only going to go get a kid from the portal if he makes us better, if he makes that position group better, makes that room better. Clearly, Ty Chandler does that. Why? Well, we saw in the Orange Bowl, British Brooks is the starter, who's still not on scholarship. Nice, solid player. But I think for UNC to reach its stated mission for next year and what its goals are, you need to be a little bit better there. Josh Henderson's been in the program a couple of years ago. He's a former 4-star kid, but he clearly hasn't jumped over British Brooks just yet. We didn't get to see DJ Jones in the Orange Bowl because of an injury. I think, and you agree with me, that he may well have ended up being the starter for that game. And if not, he would have gotten a decent number of reps. We would have gotten a better look at him. I think he'll be okay next year. Maybe he's the number 2 guy. But clearly bringing in Chandler, you have a been there, done that guy that room desperately needs. And he's someone who's had a fair amount of success. And if you look at his stats, Deana, to go back to what you said about Michael Carter, his numbers are comparable to Michael Carter's before Mack and Longo arrived. And Michael will tell you, and he's told us multiple times, that Mack and Longo coming in were huge for his game. Even look at the improvement he made last offseason. He accelerated better, he turned the corner better, and he was more physical running between the tackles this past year. So with Chandler, he arrives this weekend. He's going to have 8 months to work with Gillespie, to work in that program, to train, to improve the things that need improving. I'm not saying he'll be Michael Carter. He doesn't have to be that, but I think he's going to be more than serviceable for the Tar Heels next season.
He just improves the running back room. You mentioned British Brooks, Josh Henderson, and DJ Jones. And then he's almost like a bridge. You got Caleb Hood and Kamaro Edmonds coming early in. Well, Kamaro is not early enrollees, but they'll be in the system and everything. So you just need a guy that's battle tested, and he's played in the SEC. He's played against some of the best defenses over his career at Tennessee. He's played the Alabamas, the LSUs, the Georgias, the Floridas, and stuff like that. So just if like you said, Matt said he was going to go get somebody that could improve. They got to be very careful with numbers, like with the NCAA. Don't know who and how many they're going to have. So they got instant impact, and that's what Ty Chandler is going to help bring to UNC.
Now, full disclosure, everybody, we actually recorded a segment to use in this podcast with VolQuest.com publisher Brent Hubbs. VolQuest.com is the Tennessee rival site. It was a fantastic interview. Brent did an amazing job. The problem is that video crashed. When we were transporting it, it crashed. So we can't use that here. But I can paraphrase what Brent said, and you can pick up on this as well, Deana. But first and foremost, he said Carolina's getting a great kid. And Mac also said, you got to be a fit. You just can't be a player that we need. You got to be able to step in that room and fit. And he said the thing about Ty is he's not going to walk in and say, hey, I played in SEC. I'm the man. You're ACC. I'm SEC. Give me the ball. He's not going to walk in and do that at all. He's going to walk in and assimilate. It helps that he knows Robert Gillespie. If they're allowed to hug, I imagine when Ty arrives this weekend, he and Gillespie will have an embrace, which is great because that will show the rest of the room that this guy's okay. And that's really important when you bring in a transfer who has experience somewhere else. You've got to step in. He's got to be a Tar Heel right away. The Tar Heels have to accept him. And Brent said that shouldn't be an issue, that Ty has all those attributes. He also said, when talking about his qualities, some of the things that we said, but he also said the one thing that maybe might be a knock on him, and it's fair to bring this up because people are going to be wondering, is that he doesn't shed enough tacklers. And sometimes he says a safety will hit him and bring him down. But he does fall forward. And falling forward sometimes gets that extra half yard, gets that extra yard sometimes. But he did say that, maybe he needs to be a little more powerful with his runs and not get brought down by single tacklers as much. And that's something Michael Carter improved on tremendously this past season. And it didn't start in August. That stuff started in January last year. Once the staff had a chance to see him in person, they knew exactly what needed to be fixed. And they fixed it, and Michael was a better runner this past year, so Ty Chandler's going to have an opportunity to do that as well. Brent was very, very positive about him and said that he should really, really be a nice addition to the Tar Heels.
When the news broke that Chandler decided to transfer to UNC, I went on social media and checked out a lot of comments from the volunteer fans, and nothing but positive stuff. Like he was, saying, hey, he's a great kid, a great teammate, best wishes. So he's someone that and their little slogan for, the Tennessee's Vol for Life. And a lot of those fans, were not showing any hate or anything. The kid was going and moving on. They were saying Vol for Life, all that stuff, and wishing him luck because Brett said, the running back room was going to get crowded because they brought in a a JUCO running back, and
Yeah.
JUCO running backs are not coming to see it.
Yeah.
And Ty being a senior, kind of knew, it was if he was going to play somewhere, he might need to look somewhere else for reps and everything, and said that he kind of said it was a no-brainer that North Carolina would have been the location.
It's definitely a really good fit. Now, you have been mining the landscape to get information. Carolina's not technically done yet with the portal, but that doesn't mean that they're going to find somebody else. You have a couple of excellent sources on this. So tell everybody what you've learned in the last 48 hours.
My sources says that they're not sure because, kids could just decide on the spur of the moment, hey, I'm going to transfer. So they got their doors open. Like Max said the other day in the press conference, they had so many people reach out to them, but it's got to be somebody that's going to make a instant impact for them. Possibly maybe a defensive guy, maybe I'm sure if one of these outstanding defensive linemen, but then you're like, well, you mess up what you're building, the youth movement at the defensive line position. So, running back was definitely, we knew that they were going to possibly get one of those because we had heard a lot of names and everything. But
yeah, a couple of really intriguing names.
They're still not technically out of it, but they're still in it. So I'm sure if someone that they feel that could help them right away comes knocking on the door, they'll take a look.
Yeah, and I think defensive line is the obvious next area. But to go back to what you just said a second ago, Max said, the thing that they have to weigh, the staff has to weigh in that room when they decide, okay, we have this kid in the portal that we could take. He'll come, he'll want to be a Tar Heel, and he could get in, we could get him into school, all that kind of stuff. But you have to ask the question, is that better than what the other guys, by going through spring practice and their OTAs and all the off-season training and everything else, are the kids that are already in the program, how much better will they be 8 months from now when they're in fall camp as opposed to what this kid can bring? And if it's not a significant upgrade, they're probably not going to do it, which is why I think they're probably done. Now, they could bring in, somebody asked me last night, well, don't they bring in another running back? Asked specifically about one of the kids that we've heard about who would raise some eyebrows. And I said, well, what are you saying to the rest of that room if you bring in a second kid? I think that's why they would be cautious about it. It's the message you send to the room. This was an easy sell because Chandler's relationship with Gillespie, and because that was an absolute need. Everybody saw the Orange Bowl. That's a clear need, okay? The younger kids in the program, they'll understand that. I think everywhere else, it would have to be a significant upgrade. And I'm not sure that there are kids in the portal right now that play along the defensive line that would be that. And I think if you project out and you think about how much these kids improved this year, especially the young ones, they may not need it. You look at how much these kids improved from the middle of the Wake Forest game to the end of the season. We ran on Thursday morning, we ran our 5 takeaways from the offense. Later, we're going to have our 5 takeaways from the defense. The numbers are crunched. When you look at the competition they played after Wake Forest as opposed to before, and look at the numbers and the fact that they went young, the younger kids got a lot more reps. I think they feel pretty good about the direction the defense is going on each level, in each phase. So I would not be surprised if they're done. But our sources have told us that they're very confident that at least their eyes are open, but that doesn't mean anything's going to happen.
Yeah, and another thing, graduate transfers are different than regular transfers, so they may count against, the class of 2022, your 85 scholarship limit. So it's a numbers game now. And like you said, when you started the podcast, it's like, this has opened up a whole new can of worms that, we don't just follow football recruiting now. We got to follow that transfer portal. And if you're on social media, I would advise you to follow the Rivals Transfer Portal
Absolutely.
Twitter handle because it's been on fire. I mean, it's constantly the guys that are running that are doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah, my phone lights up about every 30 to 45 seconds, maybe every minute with the transfer portal news. And it's kind of exciting. And I have to have it on there in case I see North Carolina or pound UNC on there because you just never know. We got to be on top of stuff. So, this used to be the period of the season where the coaches went fishing or went to a cabin for 10 days before the early enrollees arrived, but not anymore, man. It's recruiting season 365 these days.
No days off.
No days off for them or
no days off
for us. So she's Deana King. I'm Andrew Jones. If you like this video, go ahead and click like, hit the notification bell so you can get updates every time we upload a video, and we do it often. Also, go to TarHeelIllustrated.com for just $8.33 a month. You can have access to everything we do. And trust me, the videos that you see on our YouTube channel is just a small percentage of what we actually do. And we don't talk about everything that we write about. So go check us out. Thanks, Deana.
Thank you.
Thanks for stopping by.